The South African Communist Party says it will not offer support to former President Jacob Zuma during his impending fraud and corruption trial. Zuma will be at the Durban High Court tomorrow to face charges of fraud, corruption and racketeering. The charges stem from the arms deal of the late 90s. The SACP was at the forefront of supporting Zuma during his court appearance in 2005. However, the party is now singing a different tune, distancing itself from Zuma amid allegations of corruption and state capture.
Definitely not. We are of the view as the SACP that now we really do need to respect the courts. The courts have come around to establish that this case must go ahead, and we will abide by that. We won't be outside the court this time around.
How is it different from the previous court case in Pietermaritzburg?
Well, that's a long story, Sophie, which I can't answer in a brief, impromptu press conference, because at that time we were really convinced that there was serious abuse of state institutions to fight and settle internal scores. We were convinced. There were many signs of that. And as the Communist Party, we were very consistent. We did not only take this matter up in relation to former President Zuma. When comrades Cyril, Tokyo and Matthew Posa were being accused of plots that were not there just because they were wanting to stand for some positions in the ANC, we're the first ones to come out to say this thing must not be done, it must come to an end. Even today we will continue to fight any abuse of state institutions to settle political scores. At the moment, in terms of what has happened over the last 10 to 12 years, this matter being in and out of court, argued, and in the end, the President Zuma himself admitted through his lawyers, that it was irrational for this case actually to be withdrawn by the National Prosecuting Authority. So it's not only us, it's his lawyers as well who have said that. So let's allow the process to take its course.
Well, on the back of that, as the former president prepares to appear in court tomorrow, our senior political reporter Aldrin Sampear takes a look at his case.
The 6th of April. It's a seminal day on Zuma's legal calendar. The Zuma trial comes full circle. On this day, exactly 9 years ago, the corruption charges he faced were dropped.
In the course of the representations, the defense made certain very serious allegations about alleged manipulation of the NPA and indicated that these were substantiated by recordings of certain telephone conversations which it intended handing into court during the intended application for a permanent stay of prosecution.
And that announcement would launch 1,000 legal ships to bring Zuma into the dock. Eventually, the courts ruled in favor of the DA, and the party was finally given access to the so-called spy tapes.
We are going to be using this as evidence in a review application on the withdrawal of over 700 counts relating to corruption, fraud, money laundering and racketeering that were withdrawn against the president before he became the president in 2009.
The court battles were far from over, but April 29, 2016 marked a turning point.
Mr. Zuma should face the charges as outlined in the indictment.
Since the charges were dropped in 2009, the NPA vociferously defended the decision not to prosecute the president. Years would go by until a concession that the then acting NPA had used the wrong law to drop the prosecution.
Can you defend technically the basis at which this decision was arrived at?
No, I'm not defending that.
So you can't defend that. So what we're at idem about is that in terms of the decision and the technically correct aspects, they erred.
I would accept that. It's just as nice.
Well, let's go a step further. In other words, they made an irrational decision.
Well, that is incorrect, yes.
Legal analysts argue the concession and the High Court ruling forced NPA boss Shaun Abrams's hand to reinstate the charges. Zuma, now out of the highest office in the land, is served an indictment by the man he appointed 3 years ago, despite his representation.
Mr. Zuma's representations, broadly speaking, largely relate to allegations of a prosecution characterized by prosecutorial manipulation, impropriety, fair trial abuses, prosecutorial misconduct, deliberate leaking of information to the media, and irrational decisions made by various national directors and or acting national directors of public prosecutions, along with inexplicable delays for approximately 15 years in bringing his matter to trial. Mr. Zuma, in addition, disputes all the allegations against him and records that he lacked the requisite intention to commit any of the crimes listed in the indictment.
But as Zuma appears in court, this is not the beginning of the trial.
I'm not guilty.
He's still fighting the decision to reinstate the charges stemming from the controversial arms deal. Aldrin Sampear, SABC News, Johannesburg.